Hi everyone and welcome to 180 Degrees of Impact. My name is Matt Scott and I'm at the 19th Annual Harvard Social Enterprise Conference with one of the amazing speakers, Thato Letsomo. And I'm proud that I said her name properly. So, how are you doing today?
I'm so well, I am great. A bit chilly because I'm coming from the country. I think at the moment we're at 38 degrees, if not 37. So that transition but all in all, I'm coping, representing the big country, the country of diamonds.
Oh, I'm jealous though because it is probably about 20 degrees here. So I'm cold. I don't know if you could tell how cold my hands are, but it's good to see you, and I'm happy to have you as part of 180 Degrees of Impact because I want to learn about your story and about what Young Love is doing. And so, mostly for my purposes and for anyone who's watching, how do you introduce yourself to people usually?
My name is Thato Letsomo, as you've said, but when I'm in my field, I'll talk more about my field.
Oh, sure.
I'm normally called Miss T. So I am a facilitator at heart, I would say so. And not only that, I am working for an organization called Young Love as a training manager. So that's basically that. I love young people. I love connecting with young people. So that's what I'm passionate about. That's what I also do for a living.
Oh wow! How long have you been with Young Love?
Since it started, Young Love started in 2014. So I've been with the organization since 2014. But I've been in the facilitation field for more than 8 years now.
I'd love to hear more about your story though and your background, what you were doing before Young Love, and then how you came to do that in 2014.
Interesting. So I'll start to my tertiary year. I started my tertiary in 2007, and I was studying accounting and finance. So I wanted on my second year, I wanted to switch schools to go to a different university. Unfortunately, the school that I was at, they refused with our transfer. To some extent, I was a bit frustrated, and I decided to quit school. I didn't love accounting. I didn't have a problem with numbers, but I didn't love accounting. I've always been passionate about social work or teaching, and the reason why I was passionate about social work or teaching, it's because I wanted to make an impact. I wanted a profession that will make me interact with people, more especially young people, and I only thought of teaching and social work. Unfortunately, I didn't have guidance into how I can get there. Then I ended up at accounting and finance. Then when it didn't work out, I decided why am I wasting my 4 years of life in something that I don't like?
Right.
Then I quit school. I started catering company. I also love cooking. I started catering company. It was doing pretty well. Then in 2010, I met people from an organization called Stepping Stones International in Botswana. They recruited me for peer education. In fact, I was referred by the district coordinator for youth in my region that I can be. So that means that he has been watching me because I was selling food at the district council. So he has always been watching me. So he kind of referred me for peer education. Then I enrolled as a peer educator. I grew to facilitator, then coordination of leadership program, and also a team leader for facilitators. So I joined Young Love in 2014 because we went with the co-founder for the organization, Noam Engrist. He was joining us as we were doing peer education training at we'll say 3 hours away from town, down north in Botswana. So he was joining us to go and do the intergenerational relationship program. It was just a start by then. So when we got to the school that we were training at, he asked me to help with facilitating the program, and I helped. good enough. I blew his mind, and he recruited me to join the organization. To cut the story short, I started as a curriculum and training manager. Then, as the organization was expanding, I shifted to only training. So, with the organization, I have interacted with, I would say, close to more than 50,000 young people. But I'm doing training. Yes, I'm doing training, so I'm the one who is training all the facilitators who interact with young people. And at the same time, I'm not only doing that. At times, I go to the field, I facilitate by myself, and at the same time, I would sit in platforms where we have policymakers, where we have academic people, and talk about what we learn and what we see from the ground. So Young Love is just an organization that scale proven life-saving information programs on health and also on education.
Wow, that's so interesting, because it's like I hear a lot of people's stories. Like right behind me, there are the names of a ton of the people that I've interviewed, basically all of them to date except for you at this point. And it's interesting because some people start to do their work because like all of their lives they've been working toward it. Like I was talking with someone who is Jade Liam Charasco is her name, and she is a game audio composer, and she started doing the work that she's doing after having an interest in video games and music her whole life. And so that's one way, but then sometimes, you know, it's just kind of like your story. It's just things end up a certain way through circumstance. Like the person who like saw you at the counter as you were doing the catering business, like that's something that you couldn't have planned for or predicted. But also your story, I have so many thoughts from what you were just saying, because like you and I have a lot in common, because when I was on campus at college here in the US, I was also a peer educator and facilitator for like sexual assault, and like also a little bit around like sexual health and things like that. But so we have that in common. But I think it's so interesting because I actually want to share this with you. I was planning to give it to you at the end, but it's a card, and this is, so people can see it. This is Nisha Katecha, who is the creator of Good News Shared. And Good News Shared is a website that shares stories about social enterprise. And so Nisha's actually really interesting because I was talking with her a few weeks ago, and she too decided like, I'm gonna not, do this college thing. So she left college, she finished college. She decided she was not gonna do work. So she left her work and she decided to pursue her passion, and it's worked out really well for her since. And so I actually have this quote from her, and it's that things will never be perfect and people will never be completely ready. So when you're ready, you'll know. And so just go for it, because what's the worst that can happen? And so for her, it was obviously her,
resonating with me.
It was her career that took her to this path. For you, it was college, and a bunch of other things. But I am going to leave this right here for you as we continue, because one thing that she kind of mentions is that things won't be perfect and there are challenges. What are some of the challenges in your work with Young Love?
Maybe to just add one thing before transition to that question. I would say the reason why I am doing what I'm doing, and I'm very passionate about it, is the main reason behind all this is to also impact young people. I would say I grew up from a family where before I went to college, no one went to college. In our extended family, no one went to college. I was the first person to go to college, and back home we are also getting allowance for going to college. So I was getting enough money to even provide for the family. And I think you realize that I was doing two big steps. I was quitting, it's more like quitting job and quitting school at the same time. And you are the only person who has been to university, or the first person who has been to university. The pride for the family is you are taking that away. So I had to be very bold. I had to explain to my family. No one understood what I was doing, because by then I was leaving school and not going anywhere. Like it took me some time before I started the catering company, but I was following my heart. I knew this is not what I want, and not only that, I'm trying to change schools, but at the same time, things are not working out. So hence why I decided to quit. The reason why, there was no, I would say, someone who was mentoring or even giving me a career guidance. If I had someone who was giving me career guidance, I couldn't have ended at accounting and finance school. I would have done something that I know I am passionate about, something that I know I wouldn't even quit no matter what. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So the reason why I am doing what I'm doing now, it's because I know there are a lot of young people out there who doesn't have a big sister, who doesn't have a big brother, who doesn't have anyone to say, this is what you need to do, this is the path that you, because for me it's more into what you believe in, what you are passionate about. Go for it, as long as it doesn't contradict with the morals of the society. So what you believe in, if you know, okay, but I'm passionate about medicine school, not business school, go for the medicine school. No matter what you're try to explain rather to whoever it is, because I think it's more into the passion. Like if you're passionate about something, things will radiate out of that. Like your passion would even drive you to your purpose. No one knew that I would be here now, and it's because, believe me, if I was still in the accounting and finance, I could be even frustrated. Because what I'm doing now, I always even tell people that I work with, I always even tell people that I train that if you know you are in the field of facilitation, you're in the field of peer education, if you want to change lives, just know that it's a calling, and no one can pay you for what you're doing. Like absolutely no one. Even if like you are being paid either in pounds or in dollars, it will never be measurable to the whatever you are doing. So hence why I am doing what I'm doing now. It's all because of that. I'm like, there are a lot of young people out there who doesn't have a sister, who doesn't have no one to say, go for what you believe in, go for what you like. And I have sacrificed my life to be that person, to say, as long as I see a young person who believes in something, I will encourage them to say, go for it, because I have done it. I've took a risk of my life. I quit school, I quit catering, and I volunteered for 4 years. I volunteered for 4 years. My catering business was doing so well. And I quit catering business, and I'm like, this is what I've been looking for, and I volunteered for 4 years. And even my family didn't understand by then when I was quitting everything. They were like, you never finished things, but now here I am. They're very proud of me.
No, that's amazing, and I think that perfectly answers my question, because there are so many challenges, and I think sometimes when people think about challenges in work, they're like, well, getting young people engaged is one of them, and I'm sure there are lots of things like with promoting your work that, you know, it takes work. That's why it's called work. But like, it's so powerful to hear that from you, because it reminds me that, like, and I want to hear way more about your work and about the stories from your work, but it reminds me of a lot of the things that people who come to the Harvard Social Enterprise Conference do. Like, if you are someone who's creating something, founding something, working on a project, even if you're not the creator, you are making an impact in a way that somebody needs it. So maybe it's around food and nutrition, maybe it's around education, maybe it's around health, but you're making an impact for people, and the people are real, and I'm really like feeling that here with you, which I think is the important part, because I hope people who are watching could also feel it. Like, what are some of those stories though from your work, or better yet, I think, just to kind of narrow the question, what's a story from your work that really reminds you of why you do the work you do? Because I'm sure it could be difficult. You mentioned the challenges, but what are some of those stories that motivate you and push you to keep doing what you're doing?
I would say one thing from the field, like from the programs that we implement, we are targeting young people. And in targeting young people, we have realized that a messenger really matters. For young people to connect to you, to listen to what you're saying, you need to connect to them. Like for example, there are times where I'm getting on a stakeholder hat and a blazer. But there are times where when I get to the field, the stakeholder hat it's been removed.
Right.
That blazer, it's been removed. I'm putting on my sneakers, I'm putting on my jeans, I'm putting on my t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I get to the level where I will relate with as young people. So that's the most important thing that I felt people should understand. Like, you can have the right message, but how you relay the message really matters. And not only that, how even your audience view you, it can even block everything that you're going to say to them, no matter how important it is. So that's one of the first thing that is very, very important when you interact with young people. So one thing that I've learned, or I've even seen, like when I get to the field, I normally even tell young people that I'm not called Thato, I'm not called ma'am, because normally in schools we work, yes, good one. We work with in schools, and in schools students call teachers like teachers, ma'am, say. So I tell them I'm not a ma'am, I'm not a teacher, I'm not Thato, I am Miss T. And that's how they call me. They know that by itself, I'm building a rapport with the students. They know, okay, he's a big sister, he's our friend, not ma'am. You know, even how you are being addressed also can build some boundaries for someone to interact with you. So that's the first thing that I think is very, very important. So when we started 2014, we were implementing a program called No Sugar. So it's an intergenerational relationship program. So we were running an RCT in the country with around 343 schools, 42,000 kids in the country. So we're traveling around the country, reaching each and every kid who was in our sample. And then on the following year, we went back to the same kids, trying to see, or when we're doing evaluation. So because we are also using teenage pregnancy as a measurement, our proxy, then we went back to the kids, because we took the register when we went to the schools in 2014, and in 2015 we checked who was missing from the sample, and all the girls who were missing from the sample, we made sure that we followed with them. So you could imagine we were in there, would say the other side of the country, in the southern of the country when we started, but in 2015 when we did our end line, we traveled the whole country, even crossing the borders of the country, because we were following up with each and every girl who were missing from our sample. And it was so touching, because we'd find that some girls left school because they are staying with sugar daddies, or they are staying with older partners. And to a certain extent, because we are also interviewing the caregivers and the girls, you'd find that you'd get to a house and you would ask, where is Thato, for example, and the mother would say, I don't know, it's been 3 months. Without knowing where the girl is. And because we had to find that girl, because the girl was in our sample, we had to find them, we have to look around. And at times you'd find that someone has traveled or moved, would say, more than 1,000 kilometers away from where they have always been staying. So doing that and seeing how hopeful even the parents have been when we were following up and managing to get hold of the girls that have ran away from their house.
Hold on one second. Let me see. I don't know why it ended, but I know why I think it ended. Let me just hit go live again, and then I'll do it. But you could keep going with that sentence once I hit that. That's strange. But let me just see. All right. So go live again. All right. Okay. All right, we're back, and so I want to keep going.
Yes. So seeing that that parents have even lost control over their kids. At times they don't even know where their children are. And I think at the same time it's even hard, because I think most of the things that you have picked was that you'd find that a girl who has dropped out of school, even the sister has dropped out of school, even the mother, by the time maybe they gave birth to them, they dropped out of the school. And it's more like it's a trend that is continuing from one generation to the other. And not only that, it's also hard for them to kind of like discipline the kids, whereas also you have kind of like went through the same thing. So it was so challenging, it was so heartbreaking, and you could see the parents know that they dropped out of the school and they have learned the hard way. But for them it's so hard to even say that to their kids, because there was one point where the other girl right in front of us was saying, you also had me when you were 16 and I'm better, I am 17, and you would want, and those are some of like the issues that we were getting when we were in the field. So being there, trying to also relate with the kids, because at the same time we were traveling even to the places where most of the time people would kind of like say, since the past 6 months or for a year, they haven't even seen a car passing by their village. And we're getting to those places because we're following up with each and every girl. We're getting to the places where people normally don't see visitors. So us doing that by itself, before even interacting or before even doing our questionnaires, by itself, it was giving hope. You could see the smiles that the people are having to their faces, that, oh, okay, fine, we see people from town, we see people from the village coming to us right in the deserts of the country. So I think that's kind of like one thing that also helps me to push and push and push into the work that I'm doing. Not only that, kids, they learn from us as the organization, but they don't regard us as teachers. So because we are relatable, how we give our messages, like we have said, it really matters. And at the same time, kids learn. At the same time, having fun. At the same time, immediately after classes, at times you'd find kids coming to you. So I am I'm dating someone who's a bit older. So because of what I've heard, how can I get rid or leave the relationship? Is there a way that you can help me? So you'd see that those are some of the things. Or even after the session, even though we don't say, come to us if you want to come to us, like they do voluntarily and come to us, approach us and say, how can you best help me further? They share their stories with us. So that level of trust that we have built with young people, that level of trust that we have built with people that we are working with. So I think to a certain extent we are bridging a certain gap that is there in the society.
Yeah. I guess like as a follow-up to that, just thinking about people who might be watching and also about other people at the conference, what advice do you have for people who are working in like that difficult situation of trying to, because you really have to like change a family's culture and change a community's culture in your work. What advice do you have for people who are trying to do that?
First thing, you need to love what you're doing. That's the most important thing. And like I've said, in my state, it's more into, it's not a job. It's my purpose. I am serving my purpose. So it's very, very important at the same time, because I think there are times where you'd be the founder of the organization and you have your vision so well, but the people that you are bringing in, you should also be careful into the people that you are bringing in, because they're going to help you to push the vision. So that's one of the things that people should be careful of, because you might have a good vision, but the people that you bring in, your employees, might even destroy your vision because they don't know where you're going. So it's very important when you also do your recruitment, make sure that you pick people that, more especially on the management, more especially on the people who are making programs, people who are kind of like designing curriculums, people who are on the training side, people who are would say probably the face of the organization. Make sure that you bring the right people. It's very, very key, because in your absence as the co-founder, in your absence as the founder of the organization, there are some people that people see, and you should still reflect in those people. So that's one thing that is very, very important. People should love what they are doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's inspiring, and I think that's great advice, because like an organization is not just the mission and the vision and what is on paper and the process of what you do and the curriculum you give out. I'm gonna try to hit this. I'll hit start again, but the good thing is, see, this thing's still recording. So, and I'm glad it cut me off this time, because I'll see how this works. I mean, it's fine if it doesn't keep going, but I would like it to. So we'll try one more time. Okay. So, and we're back again, and I was just saying, like, an organization obviously isn't what's on paper. It is all about the people that make it, because you have the different personalities, and you know, you're a great example of that, because it's your passion and your intelligence and all of that, your experience, that makes the work that you do what it is. It wouldn't be the same with someone else. It could still happen with someone else, and I'm sure you know you have amazing colleagues at Young Love that could also do amazing work, but it's always different. And so I want to ask my final question, which really focuses on the impact that you want to have in the world with Young Love and even beyond. And I say it's my favorite question, I guess. Like, if your life were a book or documentary, what would the title be and why?
Okay, I have two titles, but I'll go for this one. If you don't mind, I'll mention the other one.
Please.
Yes. If I were a book or a documentary, I would want it to be called I Responded to the Call.
I responded to the call.
Yes.
Why I responded to the call? I like that name a lot.
I responded to the call because, like I have said in my story, I quit school. I quit my catering business, which was doing well, and I responded to this call that I'm doing. I am here today in the United States of America, speaking at SECNO 2018, and it's because of the voices of the young people that are in me. I feel I have a lot of voices of young people inside me, people who can speak for themselves, that I have to advocate for, that I have to stand. Even if I'm not speaking about them, just being there, it gives them courage. So hence why I'm saying I responded to the call. And maybe if the I responded to the call doesn't make a cut, I would say my life is not my own. Yes. I serve people. I serve young people. At the moment, I've left my family home and I'm not here for adventure or tourism or whatever. I am here to represent young people. Whatever I do, I make sure that I represent young people in my community, at work, even at church. Young people's lives, I carry them wherever I go. I have a lot of young people, like I've been saying, a lot of voices of young people back home in Africa are in me. So as I speak, I know I'm not speaking for Thato. I don't want people to see Thato, but I want people to see a young Botswana representing young Botswana, not just that, representing young Africans, because we don't just work in Botswana, we also work in the other parts of Southern Africa.
Wow. I'm really inspired because one thing I appreciate most about both of your titles, is that, like, you could have people who say those things, like, oh, I'm following, the call, my calling, or that I'm living my life for other people, but the reality is that you bring that to life through your action. And so you could say that, but people will also see, like, you're talking about doing something that's working with 42,000 kids, with students, and like, that's powerful, and it's making a huge impact, and I really appreciate that, and I'm so glad that I'm getting to talk with you now. For people who want to learn more about the work that you do, where should they look online?
So I'm working for an organization, like I've said, called Young Love. It's Young One OVE. So if you go on Facebook, you like our page. I'm hoping that immediately after this, I'll see more likes added into our page, Young One OVE. Then website, www.younglove.org. We are there on Twitter, we are there on Instagram, so it's always Young Love. Yes, so that's how you can follow us, and we are based in Gaborone, in Botswana. Yes, Gaborone, Botswana, the country, the capital of diamonds and beef, Botswana.
Oh wow! See, you learn something new every day. And one more question I have that I usually actually don't ask on the interviews, like, if people are interested in getting involved or supporting, like, what could they do, whether it's like following along or spreading the word, or I don't know, what are some ways that people could potentially support?
Okay, so if you get in contact with us, either by either a Facebook message, or you can also reach to me directly. I'm on LinkedIn, Thato Letsomo. Also on Facebook, Thato Letsomo. So we'll definitely connect you to the right people in the organization and get to see what you're bringing for us, so that we can impact young people, because it's not about us. Our work, it's not only about young love, and the impact that you want to make, we know it's a very joint thing, so we need each and everyone to help us to impact. There are a lot of young people out there. There are a lot of social ills in our communities, and we want to see as much as we can to curb the problems. And like I have said, for us as the organization, we don't just like scale any program. We scale programs that have proven to have worked, that has evidence. At the moment, we are also working on an educational program. It's called Teaching at the Right Level. We are helping kids who are who have fallen behind on basic literacy and numeracy. So it's a very powerful program that we are doing in our pilot stage at the moment. We have seen a lot of impact. We have seen kids coming up and saying, we love what you are doing for us. Kids are having even more interest of coming to school, because I think to a certain extent you would wonder if someone is failing basic literacy, if someone is failing basic numeracy, it's going to be hard for them, because you are doing literacy in all the subjects. Like also numeracy, there are numbers in almost all the subjects. So if you can add 20 plus 10, it's going to be hard for you, and it's hard even for you to progress to other things. So kids are even loving school, because what we do, we assess them and we regroup them by their level of competency. Then we intervene at their level, and at the same time, like I've said, messenger really matters. How you interact with those kids. We might get into the school and teaching them what the teachers are teaching them, but at the same time, how we are doing it really matters.
And I appreciate you sharing that, and I will definitely look at more of that to see how I could be more supportive, because I mean, if you're any you're a strong example. I can't think of the phrase, but you're a strong example of the fact that like this is work that really matters, and that that people could be passionate about, and that feels good, and that actually makes an impact. And so I want to make sure to give you this of Nisha with this card. And so for anyone else who wants to learn more about 180 Degrees of Impact, if you're following along, I encourage you to go to www.lets.care, which is the website, and follow along on social media here on Facebook, or at Let's You Care on Twitter, Instagram, and everything else. So I can't thank you enough for being my first interview at the conference. I hope you have a great time. I'm sure that you'll do amazing things here and you're already doing amazing things everywhere else.
Thank you so much for hosting me, and thank you so much for reaching out to me, and for exposing what we are doing to the whole world.